as we look at the love, the first love that we are called to have, it is godly love. Now we know we love God because he first loved us. Now God showed Adam that he loved him. He made him in his image, said that it was good, that Adam was good. He prepared everything that Adam needed. He provided for him. He gave Adam a wife because he said it wasn't good for Adam to be alone. He set boundaries of love so that Adam could forever be protected and live in relationship with him in a beautiful garden. God showed love. He fellowshiped. He talked with Adam. He, in the cool of the evening, he had relationship. That's a form of love. God loved us. We were made in love, from love, in the image of God. And when God requires us to love him back, he's just requiring us to acknowledge who he is and his glory and his splendor and his righteousness, his mercy, sovereignty. He just wants us to recognize who he is and that he loves us. Our love to God is faith. It's faith in the fact that he's worthy of love and he is a good God. We are attesting to the love of God through our actions, through our obedience. And that is the way we love God. Our obedience is a testament that he is sovereign, merciful, loving, kind, righteous, and therefore we take his word and we apply it to our lives. It's an attestment of God's loving goodness. We say every time we obey, we're saying, God, your love is good, your word is good, and you love us. You love us. That is the faith. By operating in his word is saying, you love us. Your word is love to us. And so we're going to obey you and we're going to love you. And that is love. It says that if you love me, keep my commandments. Some people say, God knows my heart. I can just do whatever I want to do. And I can show God I love you that way. That is not the love that God has ordained for himself. God gets to ordain the love that he wants for himself. And he has ordained the love that we need. The second type of love is through the family. Now, when you look at a family, it's something that God chose. I know some people are like, I hate my family. I hate my family. My family's drama. Throw the whole family away. Well, buckle up, Buttercup, because God gave you your family. Now, I'm not saying if your family is physically abusive, emotional abusive, sexual abusive, financial abusive. I mean, real abuse, not just a difference of opinions. And it's not something that can be resolved through a conversation. Then, of course, you get to, separate yourself for safety. But for everyone else, God gave you your family so that your love can be perfected, my love can be perfected, and their love can be perfected. Love must be authenticated. Love is authenticated through conflict and through disagreements and through tests and trials. That's how love is authenticated. The fiery trials of miscommunication, of family disagreements, love is authenticated. You and I won't know that we love each other, that we love our family members until we go through something that would require us to execute the love of God past our feelings and to take the higher road of love and to be forgiven. Remember, we read Corinthians, and it allows us to be patient, to bear all things, to hope, to endure, to be kind, to not seek our own. Those are all the skills that we're going to need to be successful in our families. The enemy hates families. And you're wondering, why is there so much chaos in families, but I can get along with my friends? Because the enemy hates family, because God gave you your family. So he doesn't want you to think that things that God gives you are good things. He wants you to believe that God has given you a wicked gift called family, but God has given us a good gift. And even if there's tests and trials and harm and hurt in families, there's still opportunities to get saved, but to exercise love, mercy, forgiveness. And forgiveness is not reconciliation, but it just means that I'm leaving you in the hands of the Lord. Whatever you did to me, God is going to take vengeance because he's righteous and merciful and just, and I am not. And then I can set boundaries to keep myself safe and keep everyone else safe. But families are the arena to practice godly love, because God practices it with us and our actions. We don't always do what's right. We don't always listen to God. We don't always please God. We hurt God. We disobey God. We go our own ways. We sometimes get into relationships that are ungodly. We do things. Every time we sin against God it's us not committing to our commitment to God and committing to the enemy or ourselves. So God, he has a hard time, you all, when we say that we can't do family because it's too much, when the whole family of God is God's family. Your natural family is God's or God ordained. Your spiritual family is the family of God. And if you can't get along with the family of God, then you're going to miss the benefits of heaven. We have to love each other here. He says in his word, how can you say you love me and you haven't seen me, but you don't love your brother? And then he admonishes us, no, thank you. Leave your gift at the altar. If you have an ought against your brother, or, you have something going on, leave your gift at the altar. And then when you fix it, come back. In our day and age, even in the church, we don't value family. We don't try to resolve conflicts. We just say, oh, that's their business. They'll figure it out. But this is the spiritual work. This is the work that God is looking for. All families need comprehensive communication, not just communication, because if it's not effective, if it's not filled with clarity and, kindness and respect and patience and love, then you're not going to be able to share what you need, and they're not going to be able to share what they need. There has to be an exchange of needs, respectfully meeting one another's needs with boundaries. Families have the hardest time with boundaries because they feel like we love each other. So what mine is yours and what's yours is mine. That's not correct. What's mine, I choose to share with you, and what's yours, you can choose to share with me. And boundaries keep the love and family safe. They're just protective rails so that we don't go off the rails and so that we don't go off the road of love and of 1 Corinthians 13. It's easy to go off the rails with family because we feel, oh, my family will always love me. My family will always be there. My family, blood is thicker than mud. And, that's just how family members are. So we need boundaries to protect one another, to say, this is how we're going to talk to each other. This is how we're going to practice. Should I say practice? Because a family is a work in progress. This is how we're going to practice loving each other. This is how we're going to practice being kind. This is how we're going to practice respecting your autonomy, that you're different from me and you like different things. This is how we're going to respect one another and value the relationship that God gave us. This is how we're going to honor one another as members of our family. This is how we're going to forgive one another, but yet work towards reconciliation, where we sit down and show where the trespass was and how we plan to keep the boundary and put back up the safety rails. Because if we can't put up safety rails, we're not going to be safe. Even when God forgives us as family members of God, we go back into relationship with God, and then we fall right back into those boundaries, the rails of his word. And we can't go outside of his word, or we lose relationship. And then we have to apologize, repent, make a decision to get back on in line with his word so that the rails can keep us safe. We have to know that it's a lot of sacrificing. It is not just one way, but it's negotiation. Selfishness is an enemy to thriving in a family relationship, a loving family relationship. If it always has to be your way, if it always has to be what you think and what you feel, and there's no room for the relationship to look like everyone, that's an unsuccessful relationship. We know that love sacrifices. Love is full of empathy. Love considers the other person. Love rejoices in truth. If there is no truth, there is no relationship. The Bible admonishes us to speak the truth in love. Truth is love. And it doesn't mean that we have to be hurtful, but it will sometimes hurt because the truth is bitter. But our objective is that we love each other enough that we're going to tell the truth. If something bothers us, we're going to tell the truth. We're not going to tell other people and not tell the person that it bothers. We can't thrive in a family relationship where there's no truth, where there's no ability to share how you feel, where there's no ability to take on autonomy, your own thoughts, your own opinions. If you like Trump, you like Trump. If you like Biden, you like Biden. If you're upset that Kamala didn't win, you're upset. At the end of the day, you get to prefer who you prefer respectfully. It should not divide a family. And sometimes when people disagree, the challenge is that they feel like disagreement means that you're not on one accord and that you're not together. So it creates anxiety. It creates anxiety, but we have, as a family, we have to learn to agree to disagree and understand that some things it's just okay. It's just okay to believe something else, to think something else. And so that's the practice of thriving in love in the domain of family. And so having boundaries, having comprehensive communication, forgiveness, autonomy, and sacrifice. We got to have that. And there's so much involved within those elements that we talked about. But love is being able to enact the things that we just mentioned there. In friendships, y'all, a friend that's sticking closer than a brother. Now, it is so difficult for family members to get along. So it's difficult for friends to get along. An enemy of friendship is not being able to take that godly love and let it flow through us to one another. Because a friendship can get perverted quickly because it can turn from admiration to hateration. Because, you see your friend doing well, you are one with your friend, and sometimes you feel so one that you feel like you should have all the benefits of your friend. You should have all the blessings of your friend. And when you don't, you can get an evil eye, which the Bible calls jealousy. And then you can begin to let the admiration turn to hateration, where you no longer feel like connected to the blessing because you want the blessing instead of enjoying the blessing through your friendship. Friendship is so important. We see the friendship of David and Jonathan in the Bible. They loved each other. So God ordained for us to be friends, but there's a way to be friends. There's a way to respect individuality, but come together as a unit. So there is the independence and then there's the interdependence. Friendships should thrive in interdependence. I'm independent without you, but I need you for certain things. I need your love for certain things, and I am going to reciprocate that. Nothing kills a friendship quicker than the lack of reciprocity. And sometimes in friendships, one person takes on the role of the giver and one person takes on the role of the receiver. And that just becomes a pattern because we're humans and we're patternistic. And unless someone is mature enough to say, a healthy friendship should have reciprocity, it will continue in that way, give and take. And what can happen is there could be resentment on both sides. Eventually, the person who gives begins to resent because they feel like their friendship is not being reciprocated, or giving or listening or problem solving or whatever. It's not being reciprocated. And then sometimes the person who has constantly been given to can begin to think, I have nothing to offer, or I'm embarrassed because I'm always getting, you think you're better than me, or things like that. The Bible talks about walking together where I'm weak, you're strong. And no, you may not give the same thing, but you should be found emotionally reciprocating care, emotional reciprocating listening, emotionally reciprocating compassion and empathy. And yes, sacrifice, whatever the sacrifice is. It may look different because we all have different things to contribute to relationships. So again, friendships also need boundaries. We talked about boundaries. I won't go over it again, but you do need boundaries. Boundaries are guardrails. You need comprehensive communication, open, honest communication. Don't let the resentment set in for years and then you're just upset and you've held court in your mind against someone without even clarifying it. And then there's forgiveness. You have to forgive 70 times 70 because that is the only way that you know that someone loves you. If they're able to see your faults, discuss your faults, make a plan to correct your faults, and still love you. We get to grow and develop in relationships. We're not our best selves, but we're growing. But if you're unrealistic, and you won't thrive in a friendship, love, because you will think that the person can never hurt you, never make a mistake. And I always say this, if someone doesn't love you, don't make a mistake. There's just not enough grace for you there because love covers the multitude of sin. So if they don't love you, your sin or your misstep will reveal that. It's so important because we're going to hurt each other. We're going to make mistakes. And I'm not talking about gross infractions, abuse and things like that. I'm talking about just the day-to-day misunderstandings. And even if there is a gross event or harm, you get to have the conversation. And again, you may have to separate yourself and you may still love them and pray for them. But because they're not safe, you may have to put boundaries to keep them from hurting you. That's a different thing. But we have to know that love covers the multitude of sins. And sins are just sometimes I like to call it manslaughter or murder one. Sometimes people accidentally hurt you and sometimes people hurt you on purpose. I say this often as well. Peter had a bad day. Judas was in a bad way, meaning that was not Peter's heart. That was circumstantial. That was 100% Judas's heart. He planned, plotted, slept on it, and never changed. So we have to know the difference and let our love thrive and let our love grow so that we can have thriving relationships. But sometimes you're so hurt and you've been so hurt that your expectations are unrealistic. So you get into friendships and the moment they do something wrong, you're ready to abandon ship. And I don't do friendships and I don't do people because you're so wounded and there's so much unforgiveness and undealt with pain that you can't handle being in a relationship. It's kind of like if I hurt my shoulder and I have a substantial injury in my shoulder. And if my friend walks by and bumps it, now my shoulder is dislocated and I'm in pain because I had an injury before that I never took care of. So anytime someone bumps it, throws it out of socket, and now I just want to avoid people because my shoulder hurts. It is important to deal with your past injustices, where you'll hold your friends accountable and you'll be triggered and you won't have the ability to love freely and grow and thrive in friendships. And we need friends, you all. The Bible says 2 is better than 1. So that goes for marriages, but it also goes with relationships. 2 is better than 1, and we're stronger together. And love needs a target. Love needs someone to endow the love on. Love needs a target. You need to remember, love needs a target. Just like God created Adam because his love needed somewhere to land. Our love needs somewhere to land. It's not just supposed to stay within us.